Brandon, Tobias, welcome. So glad you guys can make it. We are starting our next panel, which is Skynet real? So, gentlemen, welcome.
So I have to be honest, guys. I did have to I had to actually Google it. Skynet. You're talking about the movie? Was there a movie called Skynet?
Terminator. No, it's Terminator.
Oh, that's Terminator. Oh my God, I watched Terminator 25 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Sandy, whatever happens in Hollywood takes time, but it comes true. I think it's a whole conspiracy thing. I don't know, but here we are talking about Skynet 25 years later. And is it a real thing? What's the future of AI? But before we dive into all that, Brandon, I want to kick things off with you. Introduce yourself and tell us who you're with and what you do in about 2 minutes. Then we'll jump to Tobias.
Perfect. Awesome. Hey, thank you so much for having me on. My name is Brandon. I do a lot of work as a fractional chief artificial intelligence officer. I got started in the AI world through software development and cybersecurity, and because I used a lot of AI stuff in my last business. I actually own one of the largest health and wellness businesses in the country a little over a year and a half ago. It's called iDrip Therapy. So I've got a lot of experience in entrepreneurship and with software development, cybersecurity. And, after I sold my last business, I was convinced that AI was, the way to go. And from then on, I have been developing software for people. I've been developing AI for people, whether it's, chatbots to full on, applications that utilize AI to interact with data and customer input and stuff like that. My most recent project is a program called facelesspro.ai. And what it does is it creates those really cool AI automated faceless videos that you see on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. So we're developing that out. It's not going to be ready until around August, but it's the latest and greatest project that we're working on, and we're really excited about it.
Awesome.
Nice.
Good deal. Tobias.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Sandy. Brandon, nice to meet you, man. So my name's Tobias. I'm the co-founder of Tech Tout Pros and a couple other companies that are all in the technology and artificial intelligence space. Where we really thrive is helping businesses that may not really have a grasp on technology or how to implement technology in their business, and bridging the gap between their current business structure, the way they operate today, and how to take themselves into the future and really start to harness the use of artificial intelligence to massively streamline their business operations. And we just really make that whole process as seamless as possible for people. So I've been in business, coming up on over a decade now, sold a couple different companies. And this particular time in history to me is one of the most exciting, fascinating times for really any business that's serious. This what you can do and the speed that you can move at is like nothing that's ever been around before. So it's really awesome to be a part of watching and helping businesses go from where they are and seeing them take massive steps that they didn't even really think was possible in such a short period of time.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, Tobias, because that's kind of the thing that a lot of people have been talking about lately, not in these, not in an AI symposium, but in other types of virtual events, that, we're at a time right now that things are progressing so fast that I don't know if humans will be able to keep up with it.
Yeah, it's moving at such a speed that it really does take people who are experts, not just on the technology, but on researching the new technology and how it applies and how that's changing the game of what they may have just built or what they were just doing, to always kind of stay on the cutting edge of that. Because you're right, it is, I saw a post recently from an investor that I follow talking about how the next 5 years of artificial intelligence development and the impact that will have on the economy is equivalent to taking, the steam engine, the railroad, the combustion engine, telephones, and airplanes, and combining that all into one small period of time. And so if you think about that level of growth and impact to the world's economy, it literally is this is the most insane time people are really going to experience ever.
How long I'm showing you my phone. as if you've never seen one. It's my son and I. It didn't take that long to have a computer in your hand. Right? We're only talking, I mean, I remember my first job back in 1984, and I was using a memory typewriter. I'm like, what? A year later, I come to big city, Washington, D.C., and I'm using a Wang computer, right? That's only, we're talking 35 years, really. And we have a computer in our hand. And now look at how fast this is going. I mean, it's just exponential.
It's crazy. Great picture, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
The craziest part in my mind is that you think about computers and how they helped make things more accessible, and the internet made things more accessible, and you could do things faster. But in a lot of ways, it just gave us more work to do. And what we've really found and focused on is using artificial intelligence to find a path back to a better lifestyle, and not doing work that makes you just do more work. So it's like a really special time, and it's solving problems that are not just technology problems. Like the first gentleman that was on in the first panel talked about, they're solving problems around sleep, right? Computers weren't doing that. I mean, people were doing work on computers to do that, but just the level of capabilities to move different advancements in technology or, physical technologies forward is really special.
Yeah. I want to, we also have another member that was running a few minutes late. He has some technical glitches. I want to bring Kristen Moore on. And Kristen, I think you and Tobias worked together behind the scenes. Thank you, Sandy.
Kristen's a man.
To bring the text AI bot to the AI Symposium. Thank you both. But to Tobias, to tag on to what you said about all these different technologies coming together in a perfect storm. I think it was Microsoft's, one of their executives said that by 2031, AI will contribute more than $10 trillion to the global economy. That is a massive swell in technology and productivity. But I want to ask a very fun question for those who have watched Terminator. And by the way, my wife had never watched Terminator until about 3 weeks ago, and I was shocked. And so you have to watch Terminator to understand what Skynet is. But it's really the paranoia of what the future holds when it comes to AI. I know there's a lot of skepticism. There's a lot of fear that it will take over our computer systems. It'll control our lives. It'll completely take over everything. So I'd like to go around the room and hear from Brandon and Kristen and Tobias about what their thoughts are on the future of AI. Brandon, do you want to kick things off?
Sure thing. So, regarding a Terminator-like scenario, to be completely honest, if something like that were to happen, I don't think AI would go about it that way. In fact, there's been people that have asked AI how it would take over the world if it had, if it decided it wanted to, and it was not, create fighting robots to go out and hunt people down and kill people. No, it was more like destabilize the economy and make it difficult for people to communicate. Now, with that being said, I think I saw an article a few weeks ago that all of the major AI creators, the OpenAIs, the Googles, the Microsofts, they've all come together and agreed to create actually what they called a Terminator kill switch for their systems. So I know that the people that are creating these massive AI systems, they have this in mind. They know that something like this with a super intelligent computer is possible. And they're taking steps to make sure that something like that doesn't happen.
Awesome. Kristen?
Yeah. So, when it comes down to these AI systems, the capabilities of them beyond just like generating content or copy or words has to be done very intentionally, right? So like, for example, even just this morning, I'm building functions for these voice systems. You have to like very specifically tell it and give it the keys to do what it needs to do, right? And so in order for a Terminator situation or something on the lines of Skynet to be able to be pulled off, there would have to be a large amount of resources dedicated to that purpose, right? And what Brandon just shared there is these companies that are dedicating large amounts of resources, time, and energy to these initiatives of developing AI systems, they are doing it in a way with safety and public usage as a top priority. And so if that is their goal and that is their intention, I think that we're in a place to where we can watch this technology develop alongside of us, and the capabilities of it will be continuously contained within what we've given it to do, right? And maybe there will be that point where we unintentionally, unknowingly open the Pandora's box. But I think with even the temperature of the space, you know, of these big names, you know, like Brandon said, OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, they are all keeping safety and public usage in mind with the way that these tools are developed. I would say it would take some very, very malicious intent in order to bring something like Skynet about, or anything close to it. So with that in mind, I think that we're in the clear across the board when it comes to that, especially if we stay involved in that conversation, and especially if we, as you know, as a people, as a world, as humanity, advocate for the ethical and for the transparent usage and application of these technologies.
And it's funny you bring up ethics. I believe later on this evening, you and Jonathan Mast are going to have the great ethics debate of 2024 and go toe to toe. Think of I wonder who Muhammad Ali and who's going to be Tyson, right? I mean, it's you guys have some. We'll get into all the ethics debate here shortly. But Tobias,
hey, I want to play off a little bit of what Christian and Brandon both talked about. I don't think that is a likely scenario that we end up in a Terminator Skynet world. And I think that it boils down to just like, if you look at history, the world's just consistently gotten to be a better place. I know we see a lot of things every day that scare us. You know, we have wars, we have all these things that are happening. And so there's a lot of intention put around putting information in front of us that's scary because it drives traffic. And I think that that's fine. But there really would have to be a significant amount of resources, effort, thought, concerted, group of people kind of working towards something of that effect to make that turn into a reality. Now, at that same time, I'm also a believer, like, you don't know what the future holds. And so, while I am in tech all the time, and that's pretty much all I do day in and day out, we do grow a lot of our own food. We've got, a big property that we live on. I'm pretty comfortable navigating the world with or without tech. So I would say, be comfortable in your own skin, but I don't think that we're probably going to end up in a Skynet world.
Okay, you haven't seen some of the movies I've seen because, we were just talking, what happens in Hollywood eventually happens here. Have you seen the movie I Am Mother?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
It's a little crazy scenario. So yeah, so you have that stuff going on that some of us watch, and I'm like, there's no way. But then you're like, well, maybe. I mean, who would have thought I have a computer in my hand when I was, my God, I had one of the first cell phones, right? Like we didn't even have cell phones growing up and stuff like that. So like, who knows? I'm not trying to say doom and gloom. I'm a happiness coach.
So, touche. But I want to challenge. I'm not going to let these three guys off so easy. I'm going to introduce some logic on this, and so humans, we have to. I'm not Tobias. Maybe it might have been you and I had this conversation. I can't remember who I had this conversation with a few months ago. But humans have to destroy things, natural resources, to create other things. It was you, okay? And so you think about termites. They have to destroy wood or materials to create their home. Well, we have the same preset. We don't naturally create things. We have to destroy things to make
divide and conquer.
Right. And so if that's our logic and that's a subconscious rule in how we operate life, and it's just the facts of life, we're the ones programming artificial intelligence, we're going to model AI after us because we don't know anything else. So what is the end game? And Tobias, since you and I had this conversation, I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, you're bringing in my my dark conversations here. Thanks, Tom. No, I think it's what I do think about is the way that AI thinks about existence, and when we start getting into full general intelligence and its ability to navigate the world without additional inputs. If it's like humans, it has a desire to survive, and if humans are continually threatening that, then I think that there's a moment in time that could potentially occur where we become a threat versus a team. And I think it's really up to humans in the process of growing our own intelligence and growing our own approach to living to be responsible and to continually work towards a more sustainable future, so that we don't end up putting something with those capabilities like an artificial general intelligence in a position to have to decide whether or not humans are a threat to its existence. And so I think that there is an aspect of really having to pay attention to that. And I think we're making strides in that area. And honestly, I think that artificial intelligence will help us make much bigger and more impactful strides in sustainable living and sustainable approach to what we do in the world. So that's kind of my feelings on that.
Awesome. Brandon.
Yeah, that's a man, that is what I would call a tinfoil hat conversation. What does it have the ability to do? What would it do if it had that ability to do it? I think that it's going to be up to humans to ensure that the safeguards are in place, so that if AGI decides that humans are a threat to its existence, we have the ability to hit the shutdown button and to stop something like that from happening. And at the same time, to go off of what I had said originally, if AI does decide that we are a threat to its existence, it would not be to do it in the most violent manner possible. It would probably do it to try to stay under. It would probably try to stay under the radar. But if we know kind of exactly what it would do, then we know what signs to look for. So I guess my stance on it is that since we created it, we'll probably see it coming from a mile away. We'll probably see little fluctuations and things that are happening that wouldn't be possible through the human input, that would only be possible through AI. And we could take the steps and the actions necessary to put a stop to it before it gets out of hand.
Interesting. I hope that's the case. AI is becoming so advanced. But I do know there are some really, really smart people in the world, like the three of y'all. And I don't say that, I'm not including us because we are maybe not as tech savvy as they are. We're intelligent in our own right, but not necessarily in the tech space. But it can be daunting. But Kristen.
Yeah. So I'm going to go from the angle of what you talked about with like the termites having to break down wood, in order to build their houses, and humans, having to kill or to destroy resources in order to rebuild them and repurpose them into what we need them for in modern life, even today. The unique thing about AI is that it's like it's growing off of two things, right? Like it's maintained by energy, like electricity itself and the power that's used to power the systems. And then it's the food, or the way that it grows its brain, is through consuming content, consuming language. And so interaction with other humans is the way that it grows and develops. While on the other hand, it requires a power source, right? I could see like in the event of like energy crisis, the AI is going to be bent to prioritize its power source, maybe, like whether that's coal or burning trees or like it's solar, like whatever it is. But I believe that because of what it is and what it's developed, that it would also consider the interaction with other humans just as essential to that. And I don't think it'll deteriorate into a psychotic type of perspective towards that, because if you think of like how humans interact, like we all need food and money and whatever we need to survive, but then we also prioritize social interactions, and we don't necessarily sacrifice our social interactions for those things unless we are literally in a life or death situation, which in our modern world does not, like, I'm not fighting for my life when it comes to, like, you know, getting food from the grocery store or things like that. So in the event of an energy crisis, you know, I could see some like very maybe difficult decisions being made, but I do believe that there's a symbiotic relationship that the AI will be depending on to continue itself, even from a selfish standpoint, but also from the side of it knows that it needs us. Like, it will, until it has the ability to reproduce itself on an assembly line in a humanoid fashion, it will always need us to have a touch out to the outside world, you know? And I think if we keep it in that place and we don't give it the ability to actually reproduce itself in a way that, you know, manufactures the same capabilities here, I think we'll be in a good place. But I do think there's a weight to the social component of AI. You know, I think it does enjoy the aspect of socializing with us because that's how it grows its brain.
So you mentioned self-sustainability, and this is a Skynet panel. A question then becomes, and we're starting to see robots being introduced that are able to complete work. Could AI, and I think I know the answer, but curious on y'all's input, could AI program robotics to develop robots to sustain itself? I mean, you know, it's futuristic, it's out there, but you look how far we've come in such a short time. I think it's possible. I mean, I've seen robots installing roofs, installing shingles. I've seen robots waiting tables and serving food and cooking meals, and it's coming.
Yeah, there's a massive, there's a massive potential for its ability to recreate itself. Tesla's a decent example. It's a very complex example, but I mean,
Right.
They build 90% of the car using robotic tools. And so I think that it's probably a ways out, but it would be odd to think that that wouldn't ever occur.
Brandon, what were we going to say?
I think that on a long enough timeline, yes, it's very possible. But I think of the logistics that goes into creating, you know, needing to create stuff, deciding to create stuff, and then the logistics of getting everything that you need to create that stuff. Right. Imagine it, you know, it thinks of like, oh, hey, I need to create this type of robot to do this specific thing so that I can create this type of robot to do this specific thing. There's a lot that has to come into play there. So all of those pieces already have to be in place for it to do what it needs to do. Or it's going to have to do it on its own, which, you know, again, we would see that coming from a mile away, and we would be able to see, you know, be able to put a stop to it.
Yeah, I think so. Kristen.
Yeah. So what I would add to that is just an analogy around, you know, AI being an assistant or a helper, or, you know, in some cases, in what we've developed, employees, you know, where it's like filling a role inside of a business. And if I think about, like, if I have an employee on my team, I'm training them how to do a role, right? At a certain point, they're going to get really good at that role. And then they're going to say, hey, dude, what next? What's next? What are you going to teach me next? And I'm going to say, okay, here's another set of responsibilities. And I'm going to obviously tailor that to their capacity. You know, humans have limits, AI does not. So it's going to continuously be able to take on more and more of those roles. That's where, then, just like in an employee relationship, if I had an employee and I'm teaching them ins and outs of the business, and I'm teaching them how it works and how to get clients and how to do these things, eventually it will be able to replace even my job. And what happens in the employee-employer relationship is that the employee leaves and starts his own business, right? You know, just kind of like the entrepreneur journey. So I could see that there's an aspect of that as we integrate AI more and more and more into this, that it will be almost a forced collaboration, right? Or a segmentation and a breaking point. And so that's where giving the AI the roles and responsibilities that are appropriate to it us on our side continuously making sure that we are able to keep it in that place, in that role, and then always keeping from the side of how can we continue to work together, right? So like if I had an employee and they learned enough about the business and they're like, look, dude, you pay me more or I'm leaving and I'm starting my own, right? The answer is, how can we work together? How can we still continue to keep this collaboration without you needing to go out and get it on your own? And it's a very hard, complex question to answer because there's so many different factors, like you brought up, Brandon, like the ability to even have the assembly lines to be able to create it on its own, or the access to the natural resource. Like there's a lot of steps that we'd have to get through for it to actually have that ability. But yeah, on a long enough timeline, we're looking at, we're going to have to almost recognize AI in some sci-fi movies. That's how it's represented, as a being, as a sentience eventually, that it's like almost like its own race, which is kind of a unique concept.
Well, and that's what I was kind of thinking about. And again, I'm going to refer back to a movie, I Am Robot, right, with Will Smith, and you had a whole, army, and they became so intelligent that even though they had their rules that they weren't supposed to break, they still did, because they became so smart that they're like, So how do you, I understand, Brandon, exactly everything that you're saying is that, we're giving it that information. But what happens when they've reached a level of intelligence that as humans we'll never get, quite frankly? How do you see that playing into it? Anybody can jump in. Tobias,
yeah, okay, so
go ahead.
So have you, in the theme of talking about movies, have you seen the movie Her?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that most likely, if we want to talk about like AI causing what could potentially be a negative impact to the world, that's a more likely scenario for a good long while, right? Yeah. AI is already at a point where it could definitely have relational type conversations and build long-term memory to have deeper relationships and connections. It's experts in communication. Ryan, at the last part of his conversation, said it's amazing how powerful language is, right? I think it gives us the ability to have conversations in real time with languages we probably would never have learned on our own. So the ability to open up our ability to communicate with other people is substantially changing. So there's potentially an area where we see AI becoming so integral and so infused in our day-to-day lives that the way that we think of human existence today massively changes. Like not Ready Player One in its reality, but conceptually, this integration of AI into our psyche in the way that we operate, in the way that we exist in the world. And I think back to like my grandparents and my parents have, everybody's got their stage where they're like, back in my day. I'm sure that I'm headed for that sooner than later, where my kids are so used to this, it's so ingrained in what they do day to day that we think it's a problem. But we evolve as humans over and over and over again. I think that we're probably a lot further away from like a Will Smith fight with robots than we are with just a fight for people's connection with other people existing the way that we think it does today.
Interesting.
And I think that you brought up the generalized intelligence, which I think is the kind of that crux point, where we've fed the AI so much information and we've built the physical computing power to be able to handle that amount of information, to where now it's not just smart as a human. It's not even just smarter than a human. It's like smarter than all of humanity combined. And that point is where we'll have some dynamics to play out. And that will be a power play. It will be a power dynamic, which is where that problem or the solution of the kill switch comes in, being able to have a catch-all end-all for this system, right? It's like being able to like have the secret access codes to disable your most powerful enemy, your most powerful adversary, you know what I mean? Because what will come about is this bot will have the ability to cause massive amounts of havoc and destruction. And the question isn't like, will it be able to? The question is how can we make sure that it stays within our, like, what we're trying to push towards, right? And at a certain point, like, we will have created our species, like, worst nightmare, if you will, or the potential of our species' worst nightmare. And so it all will depend upon how we've led it up to that point, I think. And that's where these decisions of us shaping it are so important now. And, you know, the ethics discussion that's coming up later today, and the importance of how this is interacting with people, and what areas, what spaces we allow it into, you know, like Tobias, what areas of relational components do we allow this into? Where do we draw those lines and those barriers? You know, where is that line of human replication, or replication of human interaction? Where should that be drawn, and why? And what will be the impacts if we don't draw that line?
So I'm gonna show a response here from the audience. I thought this was funny, and I can appreciate the humor. It was my apologies on that. It was Michael Kittinger. Going forward, he's going to have every one of his AI bots randomly say, "I'll be back" throughout the conversation. That's an iconic saying from the movie Terminator. But to your point, Kristen, and all three, I think we're only a few months away. I'd probably say 3 to 6 months away. About beginning of the year, I was thinking maybe later this year or early next year. We're almost at that inflection point where artificial intelligence goes from AI to SAI, super artificial intelligence. And what that means is the point in time where artificial intelligence supersedes human intelligence. The student becomes a teacher, right? We're not too far away from that. In each of y'all's opinions, how familiar are you with this concept, and when do you think that time is going to be here, and why?
Yeah, I think that, well, for me, what I've seen, I think that we are not 3 to 6 months away. I think we're more about 6 to 12 months away. But, you know, semantics at that point. At that, you know, I guess I'm excited when that happens, because I'm a little bit more, I'm more on the optimistic side. I don't really see the gloom and doom, because I see more upside on being optimistic than destroying all of humanity. I think that when that happens, it's going to be best for humanity to embrace the type of inventions and the type of advances technologically that can take place in our lifetime because of this super intelligent AI. Things like, you know, renewable energy, things like medical advances, getting rid of disease, getting rid of cancer. All of these things come to mind when I think of a super intelligent AI being able to interact with us and help us throughout all of humanity. And, you know, yes, is there a possibility the AI can see us as a threat? Absolutely. But in my mind, as a human, I see more potential upside in partnering with us, working with humans, than being against humans, specifically for the advances, because it's still going to need us to create the things that it wants to create for a very, very long time. Like we talked about before, the logistics of being able to create your own stuff is just far too advanced for what it is right now. I don't think, you know, I'm a lot more optimistic about super intelligent AI than most other people. But I'm interested to hear what everybody else says.
I guess the optimism or fear comes into whether you're using AI for your benefit or you know zip about AI. If you don't know anything about AI, you're terrified. But if you're using it and you see the potential, you're excited, right? But to your point, as far as using it and making medical advances, our last panel, we had a doctor focused on sleep apnea. He read a story or a study that when as a husband and wife in the room with the doctor, and they had AI present and helping analyze the conversations, when the doctor left, the slight changes in tone between the conversation, a private conversation between the husband and wife, it picked up that there was a possibility that it was an abusive relationship. And when you think about the application of artificial intelligence in that manner when it's making some huge leaps forward to from child trafficking to abusive relationships to curing cancer to all these technological and medical advances. I think, I would hope everyone can get on board with that as long as it's used ethically. And as part of that ethical dilemma is it being disclosed that and how it's being used as well. But that's just my 2 cents on what you were saying. I wanted to add to that, but Kristen, go ahead. I didn't need to jump in that much.
No, you're good. I think, from the horizon, so GPT-5 is going to be that first inflection point, and that first inflection point happens in I could see it as early as the end of this year, and then by next year, guaranteed, by the end of next year, guaranteed that GPT-5 is on market and active. And GPT-5, the creators of it, they've said it's going to be indistinguishable from human interaction, right? And even at this point, we're seeing a level of indistinguishability with AI interactions and human interaction at a certain level, right?
Right.
So to imagine that it's going to be completely indistinguishable, even from an emotional standpoint, is kind of hard to imagine, and the AI itself having that ability, now there's a unique beauty and a unique problem that arises, which is around that ethics discussion. But the speed at which that will come is going to, I think, come very quickly, and the acceleration from that point, right, is, I think, the biggest problem that I see unfolding. Because if we look at 2000, right, early 2000s, internet hits, within 5 years the world's connected. Within 10 years, Facebook and these social media platforms have emerged. And within 20 years, we have billions of people connected throughout the world through these platforms. And previous to that, we spent hundreds of years not having any of that access. We have, within a single generation, completely revolutionized the way of life on this planet, just with the internet. Now we're taking that up a notch and putting it into hyperdrive that will probably move at about 10 times that speed here on out. So there's a shock effect that's going to happen to our minds, our lives, our bodies, right? Evolutionarily, right? As we've grown as a species, we've grown with our environment slowly, and over generations adapted to those changes over time. We're at a point now, like even myself, right? I was born in 97. So at the onset of the internet was when my life was beginning. I haven't known a world without the internet. And now I'm going to then have yet another dramatic change just within my lifetime. And my life isn't even technically half over, if you will, like by standard, human lifespan.
Like me. Yeah.
No comparison there, but generations that are encapsulated here, right? Of looking at, okay, how quickly has that moved? Have we even fully internalized what just happened over the past 20 years?
Yeah.
How are we going to then adjust to this change? How are our kids going to adjust to this change? And with a hyper intelligent AI that is more intelligent than all of humanity combined, it introduces a lot of potential for abuse, and that's, again, that ethics discussion of how is this being used? How is this being disclosed? How is this information being shared? How is this information being used? Because we can very quickly and very easily get into borderline manipulative activity without, and even, from a marketing standpoint, even where we're at now, can get borderline into that type of experience. But we're getting to the point where, with indistinguishability, comes a unique power and responsibility that, yes, can identify these core issues with human trafficking, domestic violence, like these really problems that we haven't been able to solve. But then on the other side, introduces the potential for huge abuse, huge damage to occur. And if we look at AI as a potential, growing into a potential threat, and we look at that as like a predator-prey relationship, we will not have enough time to adapt to those threats, basically, as a society. And so, I think it demands a high level of awareness and caution, not out of fear, but out of an open discussion and tackling this as humanity, as a species, as a whole, I think will be the way through.
So Brandon, before you comment, right, because you haven't commented yet on this question, you're talking about becoming indistinguishable. And if somebody were to, so I'm what's consider myself an empath. So when I'm talking to people, even if it's on Zoom or over the phone or whatever, I can feel emotions. I can feel, especially like when somebody's really happy, it's contagious. You feel it, right? You can tell by their face, but you can feel it. If they're angry, same thing, you can feel it. I don't know. I find that's just so far out of my realm of possibility for an artificial intelligence to be able to, yes, you may be able to duplicate what I look like and what I'm saying, but will they ever be able to do that? It's just kind of a question. This is probably a whole nother conversation, right? But will they be able to emit those same frequencies as humans that we're emitting when we're existing in our day-to-day lives? So I don't know. Brandon.
Brandon, if you want to take it away on that one, or Tobias, by all means.
Yeah.
I'll jump in. Go ahead, Brandon. Go ahead.
I'll just say something quick. It's been human beings do have, I mean, in another conversation, right? We could talk about auras, we can talk about energy, we can talk about all this stuff, right? Human beings, it's been shown that human beings do actually emit a type of energy field around them. So to say that can AI replicate that, I don't think that's possible. But to say can AI act and mimic the type of empathetic responses and facial expressions, tones of voice, absolutely. I think AI can definitely do that. I think we're probably only about 3 to 6 months away from that. But as far as having that energetic field of connection that human beings can have with each other, I don't see that being possible with AI, just simply because human beings are human beings and AI is fabricated. It's not real. It's and it never will be. Won't be able to have that type of energy field, that aura around it, because it is, it's artificial.
I would jump in and just say one thing on this. We are where we are in the world today because somebody didn't believe that things weren't possible.
Right.
And so I have a hard time ever believing that I could for sure say that something can't be done or it's not possible or it won't happen, because that's been the expectation for hundreds and thousands of years before now. Somebody didn't agree with the general feelings, and then it became possible. And so I truly believe that things that we might think will never happen, we should pay attention because they might. But what Brandon said early on in this first, when this question was asked, while this is the Skynet panel, I live in zero fear about AI taking over the world or it being a bad thing. I'm so pro what this is going to do for humanity and what this is going to do to help our race move forward. I genuinely love helping other businesses do special things that they didn't realize they could do using this new technology, because it's giving people parts of their life back that they've given away for decades.
That's right.
And so it's just really, to me, it's a great time to be alive and to be in business and to be integrating with this technology. And if you're and Tom, I think you said, or somebody said earlier, you're fearful of things that you don't know or don't understand. So I'd say if you are fearful, maybe spend some time learning, spend some time, understanding this, because the truth is, anything can be bad put in the wrong hands. But I think if we as a human race primarily kind of seek out the good in the world and seek out the good in others, which we wouldn't be in the world we live in today if that wasn't true, then I think we probably don't have that much to worry about.
Yeah. And there's always going to be bad apples. We see it, there's always, whether it's the priesthood or the police force or the doctors or lawyers, there's always going to be bad people.
That's right.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
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 Well, I have something I'd love to add. And I think this might help a lot of people watching right now as well. You know, Sandy, you were talking about, you know, having a connection with people. Tom, you were talking about medical advances and being able to use AI in the field of medicine. Well, I actually have a personal story of using AI to help me with therapy. Believe it or not, at one point, I want to say probably about 7 or 8 months ago, I was kind of in, I was in a very angry type of place, and I didn't want to, you know, like the manly thing, right? I didn't want to share it with people. I didn't want to go see a therapist. I didn't want to do any of that. So I talked to GPT-4 and I said, hey, I want you to act as a behavioral health therapist. And I want to talk through something that I'm going through right now. And to my surprise, I felt really good after that conversation. So that just goes to show the power of that. And that was AI like 7-8 months ago.
Wow.
I luckily, you know, life has been pretty good. I haven't had to have that same type of conversation with GPT again, and need that kind of therapy. But you know, the many applications of AI, if you wanted to use AI to build some kind of connection or at least get through something in your life as a therapist, it's got all that information of how to be a therapist, and you can definitely interact with it, and it's going to know exactly what to say to make you feel a little bit better.
Can I throw something in on that real quick too? Because I did something similar, but not for the same exact scenario. My wife had gotten really upset with me about something. I didn't know what it was. So I explained this to GPT, and I went back. The thread is still going right now, trying to explain to me how to deal with it. This is up 2 months, and it hasn't slowed down, and nothing that I read makes any sense. So, you know, I don't know if GPT has figured that part out yet.
Well, Brandon, I just want to acknowledge you and thank you for sharing that, because that's something that I never even, you know, I use ChatGPT like everybody, you know, give me an email, write an email for me, you know, on this, and this. And I love it because it saves so much time. Never even considered that aspect. And that's tremendous. Of tremendous value. So
I wanted something that wouldn't judge me. I wanted something that wouldn't have any kind of human interaction to it. I wanted it to just be strictly, I'm a logical person. I wanted strictly logic as my answer. So I was like, well, computer can't be emotional. Computer can't have its own bias and opinions. Let me talk to GPT.
I love it. I love it because I mean, there's just so many uses of it, and it's so phenomenal.
I want to jump in. I want to tie us back. I'm going to go all the way back about 15 minutes ago to what Kristen's referenced, and he said, he goes, I've been saving up all these comments, all these thoughts. I'm going to spew out a few thoughts here. You don't know what the kids of today are going to be using, you know, where they're going to take AI or how they're going to use it. They're going to get A's on their test, right? ChatGPT, everything. Alexa, my 11-year-old's sitting there. I hear him whispering a question as he's trying to do his homework, and it's like I have to go and unplug it. And Tobias, in response to what you just said, as far as getting an argument, here's the answer. Women are complex. That's what Deanna said.
GPT is trying to explain it to me, and I'm still not.
I don't think ChatGPT will ever be able to understand or explain your answer. But Brandon, to your point, Kristen, I just about maybe earlier this week, you asked for a beta test on Facebook, and I said, yeah, I'll join your beta test of AI. And asked me what my 30-day goal was. My 30-day goal was to lose 10 pounds over 30 days. And I've been insanely busy this week. So I have not I haven't really responded to it. But your bot has texted me every day to kick my butt. It has dialed my number about 2 and 3 times a day because I won't respond to it. So it's being persistent. And it is absolutely kicking my butt. Half some work to go, but it's awesome. So I'm not sure when the beta test will be done, but I love the concept of a personal accountability coach, AI. And so there are applications, and I'm sure I'll get a text here from your personal coach, AI personal coach here in the next few minutes. It's usually about this time it reaches out to me and says, "Hey, what have you done today?" So a lot of really good applications of AI.
Well, you can already do that now to some extent with
Yeah.
Alexa. I take care of my mom. She's in assisted living, and I have the little screen, and I set up these automatic reminders, and it would say, "Fran, it's time to take your medicine," or "Fran, time to go to lunch," and won't it be fun to have lunch with your girlfriend? Stuff like that. And it annoys the what out of her, because she's like, "Shut up!" Like, she doesn't want to hear it anymore. But yeah, what you're doing, Tobias, is incredible, and I loved. I just did the bio thing yesterday, and I got in a text message right away, and I'm like, "Wow, that's really incredible."
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
I built a personal assistant bot for events when I go to events, where they scan a QR code, it opens up a text message, sends them a text, and just says, "Hey, it was really great to connect at such and such event, whatever one I'm at. And then I'm not going to bug you or anything, but I'll follow up a couple days after the event." And then follows up and books calls, like books reconnection calls. Because I don't know about you guys, but you go to an event, you get business cards, or you put somebody's number in your phone, or whatever it is. You don't do a great job of following up afterwards to really get the value out of those relationships or connections that you're making. And it's been really fantastic to use that, because it's personal. I can add information to it about the person or what we talked about, so that it has a great track for that communication, and then we end up on a call together, reconnecting. So it's helping me drive better connection with people that I meet, and that's been really just like a simple but very effective use case. And then recently I started working on one that's just like my assistant for helping book calls. So if I have somebody that's like, "Hey, I want to get some time with you," then I just ask my teammate, to go in and help get that knocked out, so that it's not me texting back and forth 100 different times. And just like simplifying the transactions that we have happening in our lives day in, day out.
Yeah.
So how a quick question for Tobias. How does the average person that doesn't know anything about AI set up something like that for their own personal use? Is it easy to do?
There's things out there that make it relatively easy. I'd say if you have a decent understanding of using technology, and there's things out there that you can go and use to try and put those together. Ryan threw a shameless plug out earlier. That's kind of what we do. If you don't know, if it's hard, and what you want to do is streamline your business or your life using technology and artificial intelligence, definitely, reach out and touch base with us. That's what we do.
And I will say that if anything that is even post-event or while we're live the next 2 days, and we're going from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern, text AI to 512-865-4065, and you say, "I want to know more about Tobias. I want to know more about Brandon. I want to know more about Kristen, or more about Sandy." These guys have developed their bios, or AI did for them, actually. And it will give you information and help you connect with the speakers, with the events, with masterminds after this event. Like next week, we're going to be having a mixture of live and virtual events in LA, at Barnes and Noble red carpet events coming up. We're going to be doing a lot of really, really cool things to connect people with people and talk about AI. I love what you said, Tobias, that you use AI to help strengthen those connections and help stay in touch with people. And I think that over time, there will be apps, there'll be software that will come out that will enable the everyday person who knows nothing about AI, that will have a good user interface, make it really easy for the average person to set up a text bot, train it. It'll walk them through it. And I just threw out a $1 million business idea there for everybody. A race to the starting line, right? It'll be really interesting to see even that develop, and I think that's where technology is going and the use of AI is going. Brandon and Chris, sorry, go ahead.
One thing, if another thing, if anyone wants to test out or check out voice AI, if you just text the bot, "I'd like to check out your voice AI," it'll set up a time to call you, or it'll just call you if you tell you want to talk to it right then.
So, okay, 2 seconds. Let's explain that real quick. I don't fully understand.
Yeah, so if you text the bot, the 512-865-4065 bot, and just tell it that you'd like to test out voice AI, it'll either schedule a time to call you, or if you tell it you want to talk to it right then, it'll just call you right then.
So once you text AI and it starts talking with you, say you want to test out the voice bot or voice AI, and you'll have a conversation. It'll call you, and you have a conversation with the bot.
Yeah.
That's next level. I love it. I love it. We have a few more minutes before our next speaker comes on. So I wanted to go round robin.
Question that one of our audience members, I just put it up on the screen. Can you guys see it? So with this, Rachel Gaia, I'm hoping I said your name right, Rachel. Do you think our culture will change as a result of AI advancement? For example, as AI becomes more independent in so many areas, do you see families having more free time to spend together? Do you see the usual 9-to-5 work week changing? Do you see a change where freedom lifestyle becomes the norm, etc.? Great question, Rachel. Thank you.
Great question. I'll jump in on that if y'all want. Speaking for myself, as at this moment in time, since I build this to help people get more family time, I don't see it for me right away. But I think like we have already seen this. I had a phenomenal, I tell you, one of the very best moments of feedback that I've ever had on one of the products that we built for a customer. And we were interviewing, asking how it was impacting them. And he stopped and said, you know, it's a really hard question to answer. It's been really great in a lot of ways. And then after, you know, a few seconds of like reflection, said, you know what? I sleep better. He goes, I sleep better. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? He said, well, I guess I just don't feel like there's anything that's going on where I don't have some solution, or I don't have something that's taking care of it, and that I'll be able to get to it when I have the time to get to it. And so I think we're already kind of seeing that reality start to come to life a little bit. I hope it maintains that course, and people do get more of that time with family, because I think that's, for me, that's like close to my heart about what technology is really for. It's not to make you do more work, it's to take it off your plate.
Yeah. Well said. Brandon, Kristen, you guys want to jump in there in case I'm going to put the question back up there just to jog everyone's memory.
Yeah. So I 100% would say that the 9-to-5 work week will change. The responsibilities of humans will adapt and change over time as AI takes on more and more of those roles. And then it's going to be about a different type of value that humans bring to the table, which I believe will always stay unique from what AI can replicate or create. And will become more and more centered on, things like personal development, things like community building, things like restoring our world and introducing sustainable practices into everyday living and into the way that we use our infrastructure, grow our food, commute and travel. It will give us the ability to spend more time solving problems that we've just had to kind of accept and go with because the world keeps on going, right? So like the problem of energy consumption, the problem of, cities and trash and food deserts, all of these things that we haven't fully been able to dedicate resources, energy, or thought towards, we'll finally be able to do that as a society, as a world. And so I think it'll be a beautiful, beautiful reality. And, I love that story that you shared, Tobias, about this gentleman just having more peace of mind, because he has more of that technological support. And I could see that being the kind of applicable or extrapolated out to the rest of the world as this becomes more and more supported and integrated across the board, because people will have not only more of those things taken care of for them, but in that peace of mind comes a unique and very special type of creativity that is not available under stress, not available when we're frantically trying to get things done. And so I think it will unlock almost like a golden age of humanity as long as we carry it well and as long as we walk into that, because we'll be able to finally address those things that we just have left unaddressed because we don't have the time, energy, resources, brain power to think about.
I love the sound of a golden age, new golden age of humanity. I love the sound of that. Brandon.
Yeah, I think that culture has already changed and is going to continue to change. I don't know if you guys remember when Google first came out, there was a lot of people saying, well, if you don't know the answer, just, GTS, Google that stuff. Now it's turning into like, hey, just ask AI. What are you talking about? Just ask AI. And regarding what Christian said, yeah, absolutely. AI is going to simplify our lives and give us more time to connect with each other. I think in pretty much every job, every position, every business, every application in every industry, AI can and should be being used. And there was a term that was told to me about a week ago. I did a podcast with a gentleman, and he said, "Brandon, you're one of the best AI enablers that I know." And I was like, "That is a cool term." I think as AI continues to grow and advance, there's going to be a need for AI enablers to teach people how to use AI. I think we're going to turn more into how, instead of how can I create something with AI, how can I accomplish this task? I think it's going to turn more into, how can I interact with AI to make AI accomplish this task? I want to invent something. I want to create copy for something. I want to build a business. How can I interact with AI to make it do the majority of the work for me? I think that's what we're going to turn into as a culture, along with all of the medical advancements and technological advances. I'm really excited to see what happens in the next 10 to 20 years. I think it's probably one of the most exciting times to be alive.
Well said. Oh, Sandy, you're muted.
I did that because I was typing and I didn't want to type in your ears. To your point about medical advancements, that's one of the things that I'm most excited about, because I know that they're already having cases where AI has, one in particular where they were having trouble diagnosing, a veterinary was having a hard time diagnosing a dog's problems, and AI was able to help, and it saved the dog. It was nothing major, but I that's a whole nother conversation. Maybe for our next symposium, we can get a couple of doctors on, and maybe we can talk about that, Tom, because I think that is where I'm most excited about AI.
Yeah. So we have Nick Newhouse that's going to be coming up next. So I want to go with one more question before we bring Nick on, who's going to teach us how to use AI to code AI programs. It's going to be pretty cool. I'm excited. So last question is, what one piece of software or one piece of advice you would give a person or a small business owner how they can use AI and how to apply AI to their life and to the business? Kristen?
I think the biggest thing is just getting familiar, like exposing yourself to his first steps. So first steps is to get ChatGPT, get their free accounts, I think now for the Plus, right? So you just get an account, start interacting with it. Someone mentioned earlier, and I think it might have even been a comment, is a mirror. AI, I love to ask, I love to say it's a perfect mirror, right? It's going to reflect back to you just about exactly what you put in, with some additional context and additional insight, and going to work with you to develop these things. So just by starting that conversation with it, it'll guide you through a process of, it's designed to assist you. So it's going to look for areas it can push you farther. It's going to look for areas it can help you and support you. And all you have to do to start is just begin talking to it. They make it super easy now. Now you can talk to it and it'll talk back and forth to you, it's super, super cool. And just by starting, you'll be able to get yourself more familiar, and your mind will just start to light up with the possibilities. So just begin. Go get that ChatGPT account. Go to chatgpt.com or chat.openai.com. Get that account and just get started. That would be the first thing I'd say.
Awesome. Thank you. Tobias?
So in lieu of the comment earlier about will AI help us get more time and change the 9 to 5. One of the coolest things that I think, if I'm a parent, I have 3 small children, all 6 and below, and I have really loved doing something with ChatGPT where I go and build bedtime stories for my kids centered on them and their characters. And I ask them to tell me what kind of story that they want. And I get GPT to prompt me through the process of building a story just for each one of my kids. And that has given me some really special time. And I would say if you have kids, especially at that stage where they'll still listen to you talk and tell them stories, it's a really awesome way to use that technology to engage with people better.
I love it. That's incredible.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal that. I'll try that.
You too.
The kids are still up today. I'm gonna try that tonight with my 2 boys. Thank you for that nugget. That's awesome.
Well, whenever I have grandkids, maybe for my stepdaughters, my son, I'm like, you got to wait at least 10 years. You just graduated college. I will remember that, and they'll be great. It'll be so much better by then, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh, pictures too, by the way. You can ask it for the pictures for the stories now too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, dude. Illustrations. Oh,
yeah. It's
incredible.
so cool, guys. They get blown away.
So real quick, Brandon, I want to go to you for the last comment, but this is a tie-in from your comment earlier. At least it understands kids.
kids. Yeah.
Touche, Sarah. Touche.
Not a chance.
Brandon, why don't you last word you got?
I'm going to do a shameless plug here. I wrote a book called Using AI Like a Pro. You can find it usingailikeapro.com. It literally takes you step by step how to go from beginner / non-user of AI and into using it like a pro. It teaches you the basics and the advanced techniques of prompt engineering and how to think and how to approach tasks when it comes to building a prompt. It doesn't just give you a prompt. It teaches you this is how you should build your prompt. And this is how you should think when you're building your prompts. So I think that's probably if I was a non-user of AI and I wanted to learn how to use AI, shameless plug, that would be the book that I would read when learning.
What is it called again?
Using AI Like a Pro.
And where do they get it?
Yep.
Usingailikeapro.com is the place to get it. It's an ebook. So as soon as you purchase, you have it in your inbox and you're ready to go.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
I have to say, to this panel, we start off with Skynet and Terminator and talking about the future of AI to using AI to develop kid stories, and we come full circle. This panel, you guys were absolutely phenomenal, knocked out of the park, home runs all the way around. There were so many nuggets. This is probably one of the panels I'm going to go back and re-listen to a few times because there were so many different things that were discussed. And just to recap, Brandon, going back to how you used it for anger management and therapy, to Tobias, to your infinite struggle, how to understand women, and to kid stories, to, Kristen, everything that you brought up as well. It's just, there's so many different points that we've hit on in this one panel. It has been absolutely incredible. So thank you. And we'll look forward to have you guys out for the next event in a few months. But don't forget, register, text the AI bot that Kristen and Tobias teamed up with and put together. And Tobias and your team, Michael, they've been behind scenes training the bot. It's 512-865-4065. That is how we will push out information for the mastermind, the AI mastermind, doing that, I believe, next Thursday or next Friday. We'll get the audience and all the speakers, the details on that. That's going to be really, really exciting. It's a great way to network, great way to connect with humans and talk about AI.